Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini episode, today we're going to be looking at, two incredibly bizarre stories, folks. One story involving aliens and Bigfoot and a black box. Another story involving these eating reptilian entities. Now, let's get into the first story, folks. Colorado's Hidden Visitors, 1975 Ranch UFO, Bigfoot, and the Mysterious Black Box Incidents. What began as a rancher's struggle with UFOs, Bigfoot sightings, and cattle mutilations in rural Colorado escalated into a face-to-face meeting with strange human-like beings. But what was the glowing black box, the disc craft in the woods, and the chilling command that summoned a beast from the ground? Not to mention, the Bigfoot as well, folks. And, the cattle mutilations, when you basically all consider it, folks. It sounds like this incident, or the incidents that happened, were truly bizarre. I mean, why would that be, folks? What attracted these desperate and separate, different phenomena, and what basically caused them all to occur at this one spot over and over again over a period, I guess, months or maybe even days, I don't know. Either way, we'll learn that as we read the article, but the fact that all these things seem to happen so soon after one another, was it something to do with the black boxes, folks? Did they attract this phenomena, or was it something else? Let's read on and find out. In 1975, the main witness and his wife purchased a ranch in an isolated area near Clearwater, Colorado for more than a year. They experienced strange sounds, UFO sightings, Bigfoot encounters on their property, and even some cattle mutilations. One night, the man and his eldest son went up to the top of a hill to investigate a burned spot from the previous year. While sitting in their car, they were illuminated by a beam of yellow light from the nearby woods. As they approached the trees, they discovered a buzzing black box, clearly visible in the light of the full moon. As they got closer, the sound changed to resemble a swarm of angry bees, prompting them to retreat to the safety of the car. The witness instructed his son to stay by the car while he ventured back to the location of the black box, only to find it had vanished. However, he noticed a light in the trees and moved toward it, where he encountered two individuals standing near the light source. Upon his arrival, they greeted him with, "How nice of you to come." That almost sounds like a trap there, folks, but we'll read on and see exactly what that actually means. A short distance away, approximately 50 to 60 feet down a slope, he saw a disc-shaped craft illuminated in the darkness. The two beings apologized for any trouble they had caused, and it promised a more equitable arrangement. They shared several pieces of information that he was instructed not to repeat, which held no special meaning for him at the time. They expressed regret over the damage inflicted on several cars, but did not take responsibility for any of the local cattle mutilations. They commended him for having backed away from the black box, which was still nearby. When he pointed in a specific direction, the tone of the box changed, causing a Bigfoot-like creature to rise from the ground and walk towards it. Upon the tone changing again, the beast collapsed. The entire encounter lasted about 5 minutes. The beings appear human-like, standing around 5'6" tall and wearing tight-fitting outfits similar to flight uniforms. Their suits changed colors from brown to silver. They had fair complexions and short blonde hair. The most striking features were their huge eyes, which, while unusual, were otherwise normal-looking. Though they had subtle differences, they could easily pass as humans in regular situations. Before the witnesses left the scene, the beings informed him that he would see them again. So, an incredible story, folks. It sounds like these entities could summon Bigfoot. Does that mean that this Bigfoot was somehow summoned out of the ground like a spirit, or from another dimension because it was actually an interdimensional interloper, or was it just a hologram? Now, we have to ask, folks, were these actual alien beings, or were they somehow maybe working for the government? Maybe they were actually human and they had some weird eyes because they were wearing some sort of prosthetics that made their eyes appear abnormal, perhaps. As I said, folks, it could be that this man was drugged and then he met these two people who showed all of this off to him because it was part of some operation, perhaps, and they wanted him to think that way. I don't know. Either way, it's something, we've talked about before, folks, but until we have more information on exactly what's going on, we won't know. But either way, let's move on to the next article. Night of reptilian intruders. Did two crocodile-skinned beings feed on human emotion? Let's read about this witness's horrifying encounter and hear the entire ordeal that they went through. In January 1999, a Vancouver woman awoke to find two towering reptilian creatures at her bedside, telepathically forcing her to visualize and distort scenes in her mind. Were these terrifying beings manipulating her emotions for sustenance, or was she caught in a chilling interdimensional experiment? Let's read on, folks. In January 1999 in Vancouver, British Columbia, Ava Trent had fallen asleep when a buzzing sound suddenly awakened her. As she opened her eyes, she was horrified to find two strange creatures standing on either side of her bed. The entity on her right was around 7 to 8 feet tall, weighed around 300 pounds, was unclothed, and appeared to have skin similar to that of a crocodile or a snake. The creature on her left was identical in appearance, but smaller in height and weight. They seemed to communicate in a chirping manner, and both of their eyes glowed. Now, that is interesting, folks. Like with other reptilian encounters, it would seem that in most encounters, there's a taller reptilian and a shorter one, almost as if the taller one was the leader and the smaller one the lieutenant or something. Is that what we're seeing here, folks? Huh? And they had glowing eyes, and they appeared almost snake-like as well as crocodilian. So that's another interesting information, folks. In most encounters with reptilians, they're mentioned as basically being very similar to snakes, at least basically movement-wise, but otherwise a lot of them just look like, bipedal, dinosaurs or monitor lizards. At least that's what I think in most accounts they're described as. But they always seem to basically be described as basically, green, and they move like snakes. At least they have, sweeping snake-like movements. At least that's a lot of the time when they're described. But we don't really know the truth of that either, folks. Like so many different accounts are basically, going off of what these people saw in their experiences. And a lot of the times, folks, it could very well be that what these people saw is not what actually, happened. Remember, if these entities are able to manipulate people's minds, God knows what was actually going on here. All we can do, as is said so many times before, is just wonder about that fact. But now, folks, let's get back to Ava's story. Ava quickly realized that she was unable to move. As she stared at the two creatures, she sensed that one or both were transmitting instructions to her telepathically. They seemed to want her to create mental visualizations of various scenes, after which they would disturbingly distort these pleasant images. It appeared that the creatures were not only observing her emotional reactions, but were also possibly feeding off the energy generated. After some time, Ava began to resist their manipulation mentally and prayed earnestly. A short while later, she fell back asleep. The next morning, she discovered that 5 of her music tapes had been severely distorted, as if they had been subjected to extreme heat. However, there was no evidence of fire or any unusual odors present. Source: Graham Conway. Alright, folks, what happened here? Was this some sort of experiment, or were these entities just feeding off of her like vampires? And in fact, folks, could that be exactly what these entities are? They feed off energy, much like in the classic legends of the undead, like Dracula. But they were reptilian. Could that mean that they were, demons or something else entirely? They could be, as I've mentioned earlier, folks, in other videos, interdimensional interlopers. Could they be some entities from another dimension? And would that make them, any different from demons or even aliens, period, folks? Because, as I said, is there any real difference between one inhuman entity coming from another universe or an entirely different planet from outer space? I don't really think so. Both of these entities sound truly alien, but also, if you look at myth and legends, they sound very similar to things that people have seen and experienced before in the past, like in the classic, depictions of nightmares, folks, that in the past has been attributed to demonic activity. This story sounds very similar to that one. But it could also be alien, and these beings are here for one reason or another that we don't understand. Either way, truly, both stories we read about today, folks, were truly enlightening, but we're now at the end. So please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics that are bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in the description of the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure it's the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.